Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Dan Blanchard with the Travel in Time with Dan show, where we mix travel with history, with leadership, and of course with me, Dan Blanchard. Today, I am at the Battle of Saratoga Monument at the Village of Victory in New York. It's probably about 8 miles north of where the fighting really took place, a place where everything changed. Yes. Now, the plan of this battle was for England to cut off those rebellious, pesky New England colonies that were causing all this problems in the American Revolution. But it didn't quite go the way that the English were hoping. All right. The Battle of Saratoga, believe it or not, is actually two battles. All right, one took place in September at Freeman's farm, and the other almost in October sometime at the Bemis Heights. There was the Bemis Heights battle that took place there in Saratoga. The British had a pretty good plan by Burgoyne. It was going to be a three-pronged attack, right? Three armies were going to converge on these pesky colonists and finally shut them down. But it didn't quite work out the way it was supposed to. All right, General Burgoyne got delayed in the wilderness, and from the really rough time he had at the Battle of Bennington, I think it was maybe Saint Leger. It was like one of the another army. That one had to retreat, so that second army didn't make it. All right, and General William Howe, he decided that he was going to take it upon himself to go to Philadelphia, right? He wanted to go to Philly, and he left his teammates high and dry by going to Philly, and that was a big mistake because General Burgoyne found himself standing there alone with his army when he got here, and he was surrounded, and he had taken some losses at the Battle of Bennington right before this, was unable to get the supplies he needed, lost about 1,000 of his men, and the losses he couldn't replace. It was like half his men. He couldn't replace it, right? And he was fighting up here in Saratoga, and the local militia just kept growing and growing as they were hearing about this and running here, and Burgoyne couldn't replace his forces, but the colonists could. The local militia just kept growing, and I got to tell you, I mean, there was some real heroes here, right? General Gates, Arnold, of course, Benedict Arnold was a real hero here, and indirectly influenced this was the Green Mountain Boys for what they did in the Battle of Bennington, and General Stark of New Hampshire for what he did in the Battle of Bennington. Really, really left Burgoyne in a bad spot, and he's going to lose, right? He's going to lose his fight. And they're going to have what's called the Articles of Convention in 1777, where an army of amateurs, the colonists, the army of amateurs defeated a world power. All right? But I got to tell you, these colonists, they treated the English and the Canadians who were helping the British, they treated them with a lot of respect. In the Convention of 1777, they got treated really, really well, and they got to just, retreat with full military honors, war honors. They got to keep their weapons. They didn't get searched. They just got to go home and, and say, hey, we weren't going to attack the colonists anymore, but we're going to just go home. And they got to go home. All right, no big deal. Nothing, no harm, no foul, right? Sort of thing, I guess. So that was the Articles of Convention. And what the Articles of Convention of 1777 does is that it just transforms, right, the local insurrection into a global conflict. And it gives Benjamin Franklin all sorts of leverage now to work that Treaty of Alliance in 1778 with the French. And then later, the Spanish and the Dutch are going to jump in there too. And this is no longer going to be a doomed colonial vote, a little teeny insurrection here. It's going to become basically a global conflict where the English are going to have to spread out basically around the world to protect their interest in what could be considered basically a world war, right? And the United States comes out of this. The colonies come out of this smelling really good. They make out, they do very well. They get their independence. A lot of good stuff there. So listen, if you have not been down here, I always like to talk about travel. If you've been not down here to Saratoga, this is like a pretty cool place should definitely come down, check it out. Now, I've already given you a little bit of the history. So what's the leadership? You know, I like to mix in that leadership stuff, right? What's the leadership? Well, I would say the leadership is teamwork matters, baby. I mean, General William Howe, when he went to Philly, that was a big mistake. He wasn't being a good teammate at all. And the leader, Burgoyne, he should have somehow have had those guys on board, you know, with teamwork. And if those three armies had collapsed upon, you know, this amateur army of colonists, might be a totally different story, right? But the British, they failed with their teamwork, and the Americans didn't. All right, and that's why we got what we got. All right, listen, everybody. Thank you for spending time with me today on the Travel in Time with Dan show, where we mix travel with history and with leadership, and of course with me, Dan Blanchard. Appreciate you spending time with me. I'll be back again very soon with another cool episode somewhere else. Not sure I'm going to be, but wherever I am, you know it's going to be a pretty cool place. Until then, you have fun and keep enjoying your traveling, your history, and practicing your leadership. Take care now.